Hey friends, I've been thinking, we all have our strengths, right? There are things I'm great at and things I'm definitely not great at. I can talk to anyone, anywhere, but ask me to add something to a website or an app. Yeah, that's where things get a little messy. Oops, I love speaking, I love sharing stories. But social media, all those hashtags, algorithms, trends, that's a jungle I still haven't mapped out. Now, coming up with ideas that bring people together, that's my sweet spot. But bookkeeping, let's just say numbers, and I have agreed to stay in separate corners. And you know what? That's okay, because someone out there is good at those things. And when we work together, that's when the magic happens. Community Pay It Forward has never been about one person. It's a program built by many to support even more. Every single one of us brings something special to the table. We all have talents that make us strong on our own. But imagine how powerful we become when we combine them. That's the heart of Community Pay It Forward. Your skills, my skills, our hearts, working side by side to make a real difference. So tell me, what are you good at? Let's discover it together. Visit communitypayitforward.us and join the movement. Hello everyone, we here at Community Pay It Forward, the Come Together Compass, and the IMpACT podcasting networks have a special word for you. Thank you. Your participation lifted Mission for Healthy Heroes to all new heights. You watched, you participated, you helped us make a difference. I'm sorry the video was a little long.
What's our sales potential? We're all selling a product, service, or idea to someone. How would we see our life when we maximize our performance and profit? When we connect with our potential that we were designed into us? It allows us to experience not only our work, but also our relationships at an enjoyable level. The workshop and assessment give us a chance to get reacquainted with who we were designed to be by the universe or God or whatever our belief system. The 3-hour workshop is separated into 3 days so our brain can absorb the new motivation and behavior change. J.W. Wilson, my mentor and author of Cracking the Learning Code, was not only known as a world leader in this science, he built $21 million businesses and taught Mayo Clinic's doctors to connect with their patients, among many other things. This is Les Simpson Enhanced Team Performance. Below in the details is a flyer of the workshop, also with white paper and testimonial of the assessment. Included is a video link to my assessment. It shows who we are in all 6 areas of our life and was created in the 80s and was proprietary to the Fortune 500 for 30 years. Now I'm bringing it to companies and individuals that want to maximize their work and relationships. Get back with my team leader that sent you this video to join their workshop. What's our sales potential? We're all selling a product, service, or idea to someone. How would we see our life when we maximize our performance and profit? When we connect with our potential that we were designed into us? It allows us to experience not only our work, but also our relationships at an enjoyable level. The workshop and assessment give us a chance to get reacquainted with who we were designed to be by the universe or God or whatever our belief system. The 3-hour workshop is separated into 3 days so our brain can absorb the new motivation and behavior change. J.W. Wilson, my mentor and author of Cracking the Learning Code, was not only known as a world leader in this science, he built $21 million businesses and taught Mayo Clinic's doctors to connect with their patients, among many other things. This is Les Simpson of Enhanced Team Performance. Below in the details is a flyer of the workshop, also with white paper and testimonial of the assessment. Included is a video link to my assessment. It shows who we are in all 6 areas of our life and was created in the 80s and was proprietary to the Fortune 500 for 30 years. Now I'm bringing it to companies and individuals that want to maximize their work and relationships. Get back with my team leader that sent you this video to join their workshop.
What we are looking for is we're looking for 5 or more people to join us at Community Pay It Forward because, look, we really want to see what our strengths are. And I want to bring you in on this journey. I would love to see what your strengths are, and then we can work towards getting the assessment done. We can work on getting all this done and learn more about who we are and what we need to do to better our sales, to bring up our sales. So I'm going to introduce now the mastermind behind all this, my good friend, my great friend, and just fantastic supporter of everything that we've done. And he's going to join, or he's going to teach us a little bit more about how our brains need us to act towards others, how our brains are going to direct our sales, how our brains and our system of learning is going to allow our sales to increase. Mr. Les Simpson, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How's your evening or day going?
You know, we just explained before we got started recording that things are looking up for me. I'm going to get cut on here in a little bit, and for some reason, this excites me. I get thrills. Then again, when you're in pain all the time,
Oh yeah,
finally hearing that something's going to happen is exciting. So,
I'm
but
sure.
and Les, I just wanted to. I know I sent you and your wife a thank you card. You did get that, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Before the end of the week last week, or 2 weeks ago, we had already had over 2,000 people watch the Mission for Healthy Heroes. So that's exciting. We did a lot of work this year, and we couldn't have done it without your support, you being a platinum partner of the program. Your help has been so vital in our growth. And this is just showing that we're heading in the right direction. We're moving in the right direction, and people are enjoying what we have to say. And I know you and Susan are so important in this because you guys have been there since year one, and all of your inputs have always been something special. You have a very, very wonderful story being a veteran and being someone who went through trials and tribulations and were able to take and uh, walk away from the thought of giving up. And another thing that I find so important, and this is just something I want to praise you on, is that you are a true believer in Christ.
That's true.
But you make it very apparent, Les, that you don't expect everyone to be. You
Correct.
accept anyone and everyone by saying the single words, or whomever you believe in, whatever higher power you believe. Those are, I believe, the exact words that you usually use. And I want to impart my thanks on you, because that's not always said, and people try to shame others once in a while, you know into religion and into things that people just might not be ready for. So I want to give you a special thank you for being that person, for being aware enough to accept people for who they are.
Hmm. Thank
So, but Les, tell us a little bit about the video that we just watched and the program that you have coming up.
you. Okay. Well, first off, what people don't realize is we're all salespeople.
Hmm.
And that's the one thing that people don't understand is the first thing we have to do is sell ourselves. And what I mean by that is we've been taught wrong in school and business. In fact, JW talked about the antiquated system is uh, the authoritarians or the school or the business believe they know everything, and they believe they know everything for everybody. And unfortunately, that doesn't work. Now, if we're in school and we have to study a subject, our brain accepts that, the responsibility, and actually allows us to keep all the information up to the test. And then after the test, usually 10 days and so forth, we can hardly remember anything because that's what we call short term memory. And one of the things we're going to get into on the workshop is long term memory. Now, only long term memory actually motivates us and creates behavior change. And that's one of the things that JW, when he went into at risk schools, two things he told the kids. First off, he says, how would you like your brain to actually produce all those good feelings that you are putting in your arm? And of course, they looked at him like, what universe did you come from? And so he explained to them the way the brain was designed, that once we are in track, and that was the other thing, to tell kids. And by the way, kids' brains are open to hear this stuff.
Hmm.
As we get older and we don't use it, it's actually been shown that all of our connections, our brains start breaking down. And when we actually start hearing it, we have to rebuild them. But kids and so forth, when they heard that a force far beyond them, whether it's a universe or God, actually wants to make them very successful in something. And if they are on track, they have all this power to become an architect, a mechanic, an engineer, a musician, a gardener. Um, but we have this built into us. And that's one of the things he told them. And again, young brains can hear this as we get um, inundated with all the things that the school and the business system teach. It's all about competition. And our brain wasn't designed for competition, it was designed to get along with other people. And one of the things, if you want to go watch a movie, I highly recommend it, Chariots of Fire. It's about a gentleman that was a 3 times world champion runner. And they asked him, why do you run? He says, it gives God pleasure. And the only person that we should be in competition with is ourself to be better. And of course, this is not an overnight change. It's like you were talking about. It's an idea that once you start getting it, then you start seeing different things in your life of change. And that's one of the things that he talked about all the time, which I see, is once you're on track, you can see the power that's way beyond you putting opportunities in front of you. If you study it Monday, maybe Thursday somebody's going to parrot it. Okay, that's what I learned on Monday, and so forth, because the universe or God will support who you're becoming. Now, if you try to get outside of that and do whatever you want, then that's where it creates stress and actually reduces your creative ability. And this workshop covers three things. One, the first part is getting to know ourselves and others on an emotional level, the way the brain was designed to receive information. The second part is the science of buying and selling, because whether we're trying to sell something to our teenager, we have to understand how they're going to try to buy if they want to become part of it. But it's all about the person that we're talking to. Unfortunately, too many things out there say if you give enough information, people will change. The brain was actually designed to block all the stuff that is not part of us for our meaning today. And so that's where we are very thankful that it does. But it's very, uh, one thing I run through on the workshop is I talk to people about what is the most annoying ad that you go through. And they tell me. And I say, why is it so annoying? And they tell me. And I say, now I ask you a question. Are your ads that annoying to somebody else? And they have to think, God, I never thought of that. Because if it's not what you are needing today, your brain is not going to accept it, and it's just annoying. And so that's why you have to start understanding who your client is. And that's one thing that I go through on the science of buying and selling is, and another gentleman, John Asher, Neuroscience of Sales, talks about you've got to know who you're passionate about, that you actually have an emotional connection to, as far as who you want your clients to be. I'll give you an example. One lady I talked to about 3 weeks ago, about a month ago now, and she was in insurance sales. And I says, who's your client? She says, well, families, I'm trying to keep them out of probate. I says, okay, great. I says, what else? She said, well, I try to help grandfathers pay for their grandkids' education without burdening their kids with it. I says, that's great. I says, what else? She says, well,
That's a beautiful thought right there.
and I said, what else? She says, well, provide key man insurance. I says, do you have any idea what just happened with your face and your voice? She says, no. And I said, you have personal experience with the probate and the grandchildren, don't you? And she says, yes. And I says, and you have no experience with key man insurance? No. Okay. So I said, people buy emotional connection. When they understand that you real believe in the probate, for instance, then you can start marketing for that. You can start talking to people. And if you just brought in all the people that want those two things, you'd be the top in your industry, because there's thousands out there that want that. But once, of course, they come in and they find that, you've handled the probate and they ask for other things, then you can bring in the other products. But the emotional connection, because we've all been told that the only way people buy is when they know, like, and trust. Well, the trust is the second level emotion down inside. And I show people, and again, in the workshop, how to get to that. And, but that's what I'm really excited, because it's kind of like when JW met me. He said, and I'll explain how we met. I was the regional sales trainer for 7 years of a very large concern. And he was bringing me on to be the connection for his new program, Cracking the Sales Code, which was a program to bring into corporations. And because of my experience in training, he was going to have me do that. Pardon me. And so anyway, he said, Les, I'm going to teach you a new language. I says, okay, what's that? He says, emotions. He says emotions, every single decision we make, every single action we make is preceded by an emotion. In fact, all the stories that we tell talking to somebody, we're trying to get to an emotion. And the only way you do that is paint a picture. A picture is the only thing the brain understands. So we do all this words to try to build a picture. And again, that's some of the stuff that I teach in the workshop.
Well, a couple things from what you just said. One, I've always heard throughout my entire life that you are never as smart as the day you were born. And that's because you were able to learn anything from that point on. Okay.
Yep.
And not just that, as we get older and we start to learn things, we want that gratification from it. We want rewarded for what we learn. We want, there needs to be a meaning behind that learning. When we're young, when we're children and we're learning these things, that gratification is understanding mom and dad and seeing the joy in mom and dad's face and doing all it's easy to gratify us because we like opening toys in boxes and playing with the boxes. Okay, I mean we're not
Mhm.
complicated humans at that point in time. So that's one of the reasons why it is so easy to teach a child anything and so much more difficult when we get older and our toys get a little bit more expensive. And as you were saying, when we get into school, they try to feed you so much information, and all they care about is that test on Friday. And if you can remember it until that test on Friday, they've done their job.
Yep.
That's it. That and when we start getting older and we start learning, when things start sticking in our heads, that's because there's emotion attached to what we're learning. This is who we are. You would
Yep.
have asked me, and in which everything that I know about history, I learned in high school at some point in time, but I
Sure.
didn't care. I,
Right.
I couldn't, I could not care less what they were telling me. None of it mattered. None of it, not a bit of it,
Yep.
because at that time, well, I was dumb. You know, I just, I didn't have the incentive to learn it. And now history is one of the things that you can get into a conversation with me that I'll never shut up if we're talking about history. I love history. I love everything about history. So it's something, but there's a passion behind it, and it's something that excites me, and so it is something that I quite often can use because I can take and pull back examples in history when we're talking about things that I talk about. When you go back to Vesuvius and the eruption and all that stuff. Well, wouldn't it have been nice if those people had a better warning system or something? I mean, let's wouldn't it be nice if they had better fire extinguishers? Okay, so it wouldn't have really mattered, but let's be honest here. I mean, be one hell of a sales pitch, I think. So, um, but that's really one of the reasons why I love this system. And when JW, when you first introduced him to me, and he made that mention about schools
Hmm.
and what schools do, and he flat out tells you the mistake the schools make is they don't know how to teach.
Right.
And then he explained what they did. It made so much sense because you're right. They didn't give two two shakes if I carried that stuff throughout, my school years. They didn't care.
Right.
Do I get to shove this student out of my class with a passing grade? Awesome. That's my job. That's what my
Yeah.
job is. My job isn't to make sure that this kid knows what, has a better life. My job is to get him out of my class. You
Yep.
know, our job is to get them out of our school system, and if they go to college, great. If they don't, great. Whatever, we've done our job. So those are two things that have always stuck out, and that's one reason why I'm really excited about what you're doing right now. The second thing that I really wanted to bring up is it's those stupid Red Bull commercials. And no, my commercials are nowhere near as annoying as they are. you know, those those commercials drive me nuts anytime I see one. They're just like, why? You why? Why? And I watch a lot of sports and they're associated with a lot of sports. So
Oh
I see
yeah.
those commercials every night,
Yep.
and it's crazy. But Les, when as we mentioned, we're looking for at least 5 people to join my team and come with us as we take this 3-day course. It happens on a Monday, Wednesday, and a Friday. 1 hour a course, correct?
1 hour a day.
1 hour a day for those 3 days for that 1 week. Okay. And when you join me, we will get together as a team and we will pick a week and an hour that we can do this program to where we can take and we can set it up to where we can all do this 1 hour that day, and everybody can be comfortable. But we're asking you to join our team so we can get this done. Les, what are we looking for from people?
As far as to take it,
uh well, like who are potentially some of the better people to enroll with this? Who are some of the best people to look? And which, look, honestly, I don't see anybody who wouldn't learn
right?
from this. Okay,
Well,
because you're right. We're always selling,
yeah.
and that was something. That's another thing I wanted to mention. I remember when I was a kid and I was a dishwasher.
Mm-hmm.
One of my very first jobs, I was a dishwasher, and I had it in my head, well, it doesn't matter if, what I act like around there. They don't know me. I'm a dishwasher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if they see a kid sitting there in a dirty, dirty, wet shirt and, acting like a real jerk, it looks bad on the restaurant themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you put a bad face behind anything,
Yep.
so, but yeah, who are we looking for to take this course? Who would we like to share this course with?
Well, first off, any employees thinking of transferring, and according to JW, 60% out there are looking for another job. Because this assessment will show what they can have potential to be trained. Another thing is a married couple that's having trouble. One of the things the Fortune 500 found on this assessment alone is when they found that they could get along a lot better with their teammates, they actually had their spouse take it. And when you find out who your spouse is and realize that's who they are, if you really want to stay together, you accept the parts they can and can't do. But the other thing is, I'm looking for people also to host the assessment. And so if we have a HR consultant, a executive recruiter, so they understand, so they want to host it. Um, but the other thing is team leaders, because basically what you're doing is starting a pay it forward, basically, because they learn here and now they have their own workshops. But anybody that wants to understand themselves much more and in the real way, and especially if they've struggled with learning different things. And that's one thing JW talked all about. His course he was going to start with, the first one was he wants everybody to think about what they've taken in the past that did not take the way they wanted. And as he said, it's not your fault, it's the way you received it. And so if you tried something in the past, learning a sport, if you tried studying something, then I will show you how to go back to it and actually learn it in half the time before. So if that kind of gives you an idea, it's pretty broad, but at the same time, it's specific for people that really are tired and want a new way of doing things. The other thing, any kids that are 16 and above that are thinking about going to high school or college, this is perfect for, because we show them And then, of course, the third one, the third part of Friday is going to show them how the assessment works. And the assessment, when they see this and the different parts of themselves, the assessment is the next part. And of course, that's separate from the workshop.
And there is a cost to this. Can you tell us about the
Sure.
cost?
Well, first off, each person that comes into the workshop, it's only $299 for all 3 hours. And if you decide to take the assessment, that's an additional $275. Now, it's a very unique assessment. It has 9 parts to it. Because you've heard of the DISC and you've heard of the Myers-Briggs. Well, that's 2 assessments. They look at 2 parts of us. There's actually 6 parts of us that we need to understand. Uh, and this covers all 6. And it's 275, but we also make it, just to let you know, the assessment was designed for busy people. Because when you think 9 parts to it, think, well, where am I going to have time to do that? Well, some of them are 15 minutes, some of them are 30, some of them are 45. I think 2 might be 45 of the 9. Um, but it was designed for busy people. What I mean by that is you take the 15-minute, and if you don't have time to go forward, it sends an email to you. And when you have time for the next 30 minutes, you click on it to go do it. And so it's not designed where you have to take a lot of time, just 15, 20, or 30 or 45 minutes. And when you have that time, and once you are through with the 9, then within a week and a half or 2 weeks, you receive a video which explains all 6 parts of you. In fact, the underneath the video there, there's a link to my assessment, which is 26 minutes. And you can see the detail, the customization, the personalization that your video will show you. And it'll show you in a way like you're showing it to an employer, because that's the next thing you can do, is send it to an employer, because it's an outside proof. This is who you could be. This is your potential. It doesn't say you can do it. If you haven't been given the opportunity, if they have a training program, it shows what you can be trained into. If your resume says that you have had that management experience, then this is the proof that you can do it. But the other thing is, when you take this course, you now can put on your resume that you've had neuroscience training, which is the ability to see the potential in yourself and others.
We are going to share with everybody Les's. We're gonna his assessment at the end of this video. But one of the things that we wanted to make it a little bit easier, and something that you can figure out for yourself. So we got a little bit of a quiz for you right now, and this quiz is also going to be available on the YouTube channel for this video. But which area of your life feels most out of alignment right now? We know in the business world, mixed with your home world, it's easy to get stuff out of alignment. So is it stress and emotional balance? Is it purpose and direction? Is it motivation and energy? And I know that's a huge one right now for a lot of people. And number 4 is focus and clarity. So ask yourself, which one of these are the biggest problem? And there's pretty sure some of you who are going to say, geez, where do I start? Because all 4 of them are a problem. Less for someone who is saying, I have a problem with all 4 of these. How is this program going to help them?
Well, first off, and this is the big one, that it's been proven that once you're back on track to what you were designed, first off, your brain produces 3 different hormones, which makes you feel good, gives you enthusiasm to do whatever you need to do, even through the hard times. That's what's interesting, because we all have hard times.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, if you have a new business, 95% of businesses don't make it because they can't connect with enough clients in 5 years to keep going. This allows the enthusiasm to keep going. The second thing is it tremendously reduces stress. because when you're trying to operate outside of who you are, your brain actually produces stress, cortisol, which reduces your creative ability. And so this gives you enthusiasm. And the biggest thing is when you start seeing things develop in your life that you didn't expect, you get excited that there's a power far beyond you that's wanting you to do good. And so that really helps in the motivation part, because when you understand you're being taken care of, and that's of course one of the things we're always taught: take care of ourselves, and
Mhm.
that's where all the stress comes from. And that's one thing JW did in the schools, is he took away homework, because again, homework was just to force you to learn what the teacher had taught you, and he turned at-risk schools around. uh, to answer your question.
So, once again, this is just one of the important questions that you're going to find the answers to if you join our program and you join our team right now. And like I said, you can help me decide when we're going to take this. And we'll do this as a team. We'll work together as a team, and we'll actually learn what you know. Look, one of the things that's been holding us back, and I've always said that other sales courses lesson. You've heard me say this a couple times. They're telling you who you can and cannot work with. That never made any sense to me. This is going to tell you how you can present yourself to someone else so you are able to work with them. You know, you're going to be able to, because if you go into a situation where you're going, well, I can't work with this guy because you know, he's emotional B or square B and I'm square D, so we're complete opposites, so it ain't gonna work. That's terrible. That's a terrible way to sell things, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I so that was one of the things that I've taken a couple sales courses and I'm like going, you're telling me that I have no chance with those people? I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what kind of course this is. So, but what like I said, we're going to learn about your assessment here in a minute. Les, what was the? Let's actually talk a little bit about another assessment that was in your life. Let's talk about Susan's assessment. What did you learn from that?
Oh, sure. Well, I took the assessment and Suzanne took the assessment. And one of the things that well, first off, it's excited her because now she's recommended to all of her clients. But second, she saw different things in me, and she said, that's why he does that. And we've been married 24 years, and she's a psychotherapist. And so it's allowed her to see, but also she's had expectations of me. She's able to walk into a room and feel what everybody's feeling. Um, and that's part of her being a psychotherapist. But and she's wanted me to do the same. But when she found out that it's not in me, and so forth, it's great for married couples that want to stay together. In fact, I'll give you an example. Many years ago, back in the 70s, there was a book called Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And 60 Minutes had a show on it. And they took 10 couples. And at the start, they had two couples that were about ready to exit. They were done. There were six couples that were really wondering if they should stay together. And then they had the rest of the couples that wanted whatever they could to stay together. And they went through this. It was 3 weeks of training on 60 Minutes and at the end of it, it was funny because the ones that wanted to exit, they just got reasons that they were different and
Yeah.
so forth. So it gave them reasons to get out. The ones in the middle, some of them realized, like one lady said, she said, well, if all men are like that, I got a pretty good one. I'll keep him. she found out all men were like that. And the other two, of course, that really wanted to find any way to stay in, they did. And so the ones that want to stay in, this is a tool to get them there. If they're really wanting a reason to get out, it's a tool to get them there. So whichever way. But that's why the Fortune 500 said it saved hundreds of marriages in 30 years, because the people that really wanted to work together, now they understood what they could work on, what they could.
That's and I know she told us last week what she really found out about you, which and could you remind everybody what that was? What has
Well,
she told you about yours?
what she found out was I am a director. And so a director has to stop chaos immediately. And so whenever she brings up something and so forth, and it's an idea, I have to start with, that can't be done. It causes too many problems. And then I start thinking and bringing the other part in me. And then we start figuring out how to do it. But because I say that has too many problems in it, it, like she said, sends her through the roof. And
Mm-hmm.
so the one thing JR said was start saying, so how do you see it happening? Instead of me saying there's too many problems in it. And but it's given us new understanding on how to ask each other questions and so forth. And but when she saw that I was the director, that I have to stop chaos immediately before it starts.
Yeah, and see, that really brings to the point on what we try to tell people all the time here on this show, and all of our shows here on the Pact Podcasting Networks is, look, you've got to open that line of communication.
Yep.
And so this gives you a way that you can open it and you can understand it, because there's really not too many problems that are too far gone to overcome
Right.
if you can learn how to communicate with each other.
Yep.
But you have to be open to learn about the other person. You have to be open to learn about yourself, which is at times a scary thing to hear.
Yep. Yep.
So, well, Les, I think what we're going to do now is we're going to play your 26-minute assessment results. So we'll play that. But first, I'd like to ask you if you had anything else that you'd like to talk about.
No, I think that does it.
All right. And you can always get a hold of Les at Les, at csccourse.com. Les, at csccourse.com, or call him at 303-579-6881. 303-579-6881. You can also always get a hold of me here at Community Pay It Forward, or you can go to his landing page by typing in Les Simpson in the search bar. That takes you to his landing page. You can find him. You can connect with him there anytime you take this course. You do any work with Les, you're going to be able to donate to somebody. Anyone who joins us in this program, you're going to be donating to someone else, someone that you choose, someone that touches your heart. So I beg of you, come with me. Let's put together 5 or more people. Let's take this course. Let's learn more about ourselves and how we can work together to help others. So, Les, thank you so very much. I greatly appreciate you helping us with this and in telling us about this. And hopefully, by the time we come on next month, we'll have at least 5 people set up with me to where we can take this course and get going.
Sounds good. Have a good one.
All right, thank you. And this, once again, is just a view of how detailed this assessment is. This is Les Simpson's assessment.
And we will begin the analysis. We will start with the motivator role. The motivated role is the point where you become motivated in a given project, but also includes the point where you lose motivation. If you ever observed a relay race at a track or swim meet, you know that each leg of the race requires athletes with distinct specialties. The first runner or swimmer needs to be the most explosive, quick off the starting block, and driven to get out in front as early as possible. The second and third must be coordinated at taking the handoff of the baton and carefully timing their start so as not to leave too early or too late. The final athlete or anchor is usually the one who responds best to the pressure of the final lap, knowing that the race is theirs to win or lose. Which leg or phase of a project do you prefer to work on? Do you like to be in on the start of things when people are still talking about ideas and possibilities? Or are you better suited to something that is up and running, where the expectations are clear and the circumstances are well defined? In this particular case, our client is a dominant refiner. These other numbers in the designer and developer will come into play at various times, but they're not as dominant for him. He will always come to this role. So what is a refiner? The refinement role is primarily fulfilled by maximizing the potential of an existing product or service, shaping it into a system that is consistent and productive. Quality is the name of the game. If there is additional potential to extract from a person, program, product, or organization, the refiner stays motivated. But once that maximizing objective has been achieved, the refiner loses interest and wants to hand things over to a custodian, typically a maximizer. And in this particular case, the client is 0% maximizer. So that would not be where we would want them to be spending their time. Now, the thing about the refiner is, because they're always looking for efficiency and perfection, if you will, they're going to be misunderstood by people on this side of the motivated role. Creatives and designers are all about birthing new idea and change and things that are incomplete and not fully thought out. Refiners can have the tendency to be seen as overly critical, though what they're really trying to do is simply make sure that it works. There is a potential for this person's motivations to be misunderstood. When they are partnered with somebody who is a dominant developer, in this case would have to be 60, 70, 80%, where they have a good working knowledge and working relationship with them, now we have the maximum potential of the refiner. When the critical opinions are necessary, the developer can then go to the refiner and ask for their opinion. But hold that judgment, hold those observations during the creative process when the idea is in its research and development organic stage. So coupled with a high developer, the refiner in this particular case can be extremely productive and is always welcomed. I personally am very fond of refiners because they find what I have done wrong and ultimately wind up making it a little bit better. We now move down to the IMpACT style. The IMpACT style reflects your preferred way of trying to influence or shape other people. In all your dealings with others, it's important to feel that your presence matters and your preferences are honored, or at least getting heard. The means you use in asserting your personality is called your IMpACT style. IMpACT style is vitally important for understanding human relationships. When you are free to impact others in ways that are natural, you tend to feel optimistic. You feel confident that your values have a good chance of being fulfilled. On the other hand, if your IMpACT style is blocked, you tend to feel anxious and probably even angry. You sense that your personhood is not being acknowledged and your desires will not be fulfilled. Knowing your own IMpACT style as well as the styles of the people with whom you live and work can help you relate to others in more productive ways. For example, instead of writing somebody off as bossy just because they tend to take charge and give orders, you can learn to value their style as a director. Likewise, instead of accusing the person who seems to be a stickler for getting things perfect, you might learn to appreciate their IMpACT style as an analyst. Understanding other people's IMpACT styles helps us to appreciate how their unique temperaments seek to be seen, heard, and felt to have an impact. In this particular case, our client is a dominant director. Directors are one of the most widely misunderstood and oftentimes not appreciated of the 4 impact styles. At 60%, this is a very dominant style. There will be a natural conflict between a director that is highly motivated to address chaos that is undergoing and an analyst that is perceived to be impeding that progress. I would strongly recommend that this particular client study the analyst design. They will find that analysts are going to be great partners if they can learn how to work with them, not push them into decisions that are premature, and to be able to benefit from the research and analysis that these individuals tend to do. The directors are oftentimes misperceived by other people. For instance, persuaders will see a director as wanting to have their own way and that they are more interested in that than in people. Cooperators will see them as people who are pushy, somewhat inconsiderate, and demanding, seeming to want to assert themselves and have others do their bidding. And then analysts, the one that we have the greatest potential of conflict here, people who don't care how long it takes to do something, they just want it now. Those are the perceptions of directors by these other impact styles. And so we do want to make sure that we take these things into consideration and strongly understand from the director's standpoint how they potentially can be perceived. The problem here is that it's not that the director is wrong. It's just that their motivation and their concern for the issue that's creating this chaos is being misinterpreted by the others. So better communication, patience, honoring the other impact styles that you're working with will create a better working environment for the director to achieve their goals. Now, many leaders are strong directors. It's just part of that taking control of a chaotic situation. There are 2 possible tweaks for a director. One is the give up tweak, and this is where effectively their voice has been silenced. They are not appreciated for trying to correct chaos or prevent things from going wrong. In fact, they are absolutely resented for this in many cases. Over time, the director will eventually get to a point where they go, I don't care. Let it burn. They will not use their design to prevent problems from happening because nobody is paying attention to them and listening to their concerns. The other tweak of a director is the overextend, and in this particular case, it goes from trying to control a situation or themselves to trying to control the will of other people. Now, this is not to be confused with policies and procedures that the company has implemented. This becomes entrenched in the minutia of human behavior and their personal choices. We all have a free will that has to be honored and respected, cannot be coerced or threatened to be able to get your way. So you'll see some people go into this control freak type of tweak where they are wanting to control the free will choices of everybody else in the team. This is a warning sign that the director has overextended their design and is now in the process of actually causing chaos by trying to control other people's personal choices. Let's go ahead and move over to the temperaments. This particular client has a very interesting combination of temperaments here. The temperaments have to do with how your mind works. How do you focus your attention? What sort of information will you gather to make a good decision? How do you evaluate information and give it meaning? How do you approach making a decision? We all have certain traits common with others, but make no mistake, you have a unique style, a one-of-a-kind approach to dealing with the world. Like the colors on an artist's palette, there may be a limited number of behavioral patterns that combine to form what we call temperament, but there are an infinite number of possible combinations and varieties. In a sense, you have been painted with your unique temperament, and your personality affects how you interact with others and in the workplace. That's why it's vital that you understand as much as possible about how you are wired. You'll have a greater appreciation for your strengths and limitations. You'll also be better prepared to troubleshoot the problems and conflicts that inevitably come while working with other people. We're going to take a look at the detail of these particular temperaments, and anything that is in this 60-40, 50-50, you can kind of think of it as a balanced temperament. These are people that have the capacity to see both sides of the coin. They can want to have times where they will go into deep kind of quiet pondering or analysis, and there are other times where they will want to interact with other people and work in a group situation. In this particular case, the client is right there in the middle, and so you have that combination. There will be times where he wants that deep analysis, and there'll be times where he wants to work in a group. The other benefit of this particular personality combination is that middle road gives them a tremendous amount of energy, typically mental energy, the ability to be able to stick with a problem, to really work it through, to go at moments when it's necessary into a deep analytical approach to the problem, and also to be able to go into a socialite group setting where we're working out the problem in a group effort. These things are huge benefits for an organization in that they're not going to give up easily on a problem. When we get into the backside of the advanced assessment analysis, you'll see that the problem-solving aspect of this particular individual is going to be well suited to allow them to have full reign in these areas where they're trying to work out, something that's especially challenging for the organization. Under the gathering information, we see a very dominant futurist design here. Now, in this particular case, this is going to be somebody that will take into consideration the practical approach, the research, the analysis, the statistics, but also has a gut feel that they will learn, given time and opportunity, to be able to trust. Inspiration, intuition, whatever it is that you want to call it. There'll be certain things that they will be committed to that they will not be able to give you all the evidence that might be required by a high realist at first. Over time, as their intuition, inspiration becomes more and more of a proven fact, those things will be able to be provided. When listening to an individual with this sort of design, I would certainly take in consideration what it is that they have to say. What I typically will tell realists, if they are dealing with a high futurist, is, first of all, measure the character of the individual. Do they appear to be somebody that is ethically restrained, that they tell the truth, that they are a person of integrity? Those would be good indications that the individual's motivations for championing a intuitive or inspired idea are actually good and not necessarily just self-serving. As a realist, you always want to take in consideration what they have, but make sure that it is acceptable and also a verifiable, eventually, idea to pursue. Further down here, we will get into the thinker-feeler. Now, these last two down here are two of the areas where the greatest amount of conflict can be found in relationships based upon temperament. This particular client is right there in the middle, and so would be a good counselor for people that are disagreeing with one another, maybe for very good reasons. Thinkers are all about accomplishing the objective, and feelers are all about the subjective. How does this impact the tribe, the community, the team, the environment that everybody is working in? So both of them need to be considered in making a good decision. And a person with a 60-40 or 50-50 breakdown here is a good person that will see things from both sides of the perspective. The individual is leaning slightly in the planner side, so you can expect them to be organized, structured, and to have a reasoned approach to be able to accomplish what it is that the goals are. But there is also an adaptive aspect to them where they will be able to migrate to the next particular solution if the plan doesn't go as expected. Adapters, planners are absolutely vital in any organization because, as we know, not everything works to plan. So when working with this particular client, you want to give them the global scheme. What is the big picture that we're trying to accomplish here? And if they have something that is a possibility, don't let it go unnoticed. Talk about it. Let them have an opportunity to have their say as to what their idea is that they're being inspired with. Use confidence, enthusiasm when you're talking with them. That will encourage them, that will bring more energy into that future side of things. Any kind of challenges that come up, you definitely want to address those. And then also, if you see the possibility, even if it's not a full-fledged solution yet, but if you see the possibility for a future benefit, you definitely want to encourage that sort of thinking. This will get the best out of this particular individual. Moving down to the planner aspect of this individual, understand that planners, and again, he's leaning slightly in this area, so it's not a dominant planner, but they are decisive and live life according to a plan, which means if they come up with a plan, it's going to be very difficult for you to change that plan, or at least you need to be cautious in changing those plans, making sure that you have a very good reason and all the facts supporting the reason for changing the plan. They will want to live in a very orderly fashion, so things that are chaotic, disruptive is not going to benefit their ability to be productive. And they want to have control over their circumstances. Planners want to be able to work out their plan, and so you want to kind of keep that in consideration as you are looking at these. Now, again, look at the glossary terms so you can get a greater idea, but to give you one more look at this particular individual, as a futurist, they make determinations about the world through their futuristic sense or intuition. This internal compass guides them towards meanings, relationships, and possibilities that go beyond the information available from the senses. They tend to look at the big picture and try to grasp the essential patterns. You'll probably become something of an expert or seen as new possibilities and new ways of doing things. They value imagination and inspiration. So these are characteristics of people that are futurists. They tend to look for the possibilities, the what ifs, and how things interrelate in life, the overall scheme of things. They are aware of new challenges and possibilities, focus on how things should be improved. Dislike doing the same things repeatedly. They enjoy learning new skills. They work in bursts of energy powered by enthusiasm. They follow inspiration and hunches. They may bet on wrong facts or leap to conclusions, so they need a certain amount of oversight. Dislike taking time for precision and can overcomplicate a task or project, and they ask why things are as they are. Again, if you're looking to have a person that is a problem solver, these are great attributes. Now moving down to the planner aspect here. If they're planning, they tend to live in a planned, orderly way. They want to regulate life and control. They like to make decisions, come to closure, and then carry on. They prefer to be structured and organized, wanting things to be settled. Here are characteristics of planners. They tend to be orderly, neat, organized, predictable, and like to regulate life through planning. They work best when they can plan their work and work their plan. They like to get things finished and over with, and they may decide things too quickly. May dislike interrupting a project on which they are working. They tend to be satisfied once they reach a decision, want only the essential needs to begin their work, use lists as agendas for action. Here is one of the conflict areas. They can be driven crazy by adapters. So you want to be careful in partnering this person with a dominant adapter. Now, again, in this particular case, we're looking at 70% planner. So this is not a super dominant aspect of this individual. They are significantly adaptive also. And again, that is going to be very helpful in problem solving, because when we are looking at situations that need to be addressed, we don't always have the perfect answer at first. Moving on to our advanced assessments. We'll go ahead and start off with the interests. They are the what. Couple things to bring to note in regards to this individual. Persuasion is going to be one of their big tools. They are interested in being persuasive. They are gifted in being persuasive, and they value being persuasive. This is going to be very good in a sales situation, trying to motivate people to come along with a decision or to be able to address a problem. It could very well be beneficial in a sales support or even a sales situation. We see their first of their two leadership interests. They are able to develop and organize a business community through such skills as problem solving. Again, this is a strength in this particular design. And then motivational leadership. This is going to be tied closely to their persuasive skills, but their ability to be able to lead people to accomplish personal goals by strategizing. This is a great team dynamic capability and very necessary in a leadership role. That is what they are interested in. So these are the sort of jobs and abilities that you want to direct them towards, and tasks, I should say. Abilities, we're looking at somebody that is fairly dominant in the persuasion area. A third of their giftings are in that area. And then in addition to that, they are also given certain leadership capability, independence and self-management. With their creative abilities, you're looking at the ability to be able to use their imagination to develop new and innovative concepts. So this is going to be a great team member to partner with creative people, as long as the refining aspect of the individual is not misinterpreted by the creative team. They're going to be able to see solutions. They're going to be able to come up with ways to innovate around a problem. Also, going down here, they are self-motivated. They do not need a lot of micromanagement. In fact, I would encourage simply to be put in a position of trust and authority and not micromanaged or overly controlled in this area. Though oversight is going to be necessary to make sure that they've come to the right conclusion. Finally, this is the value section, and this is why. Of all the things that we've talked about, this is one of the most important aspects for this individual and for all people. As Simon Sinek said, this is the why. This is what causes great organizations and people to be so motivated to be able to develop a better phone, develop a better platform, to innovate, to come over and to come up with ideas to overcome problems. We see a number of leadership qualities here: being persuasive, being influential. It's important for them to make an impact. And then also, even in this particular area, that this is not a dominant leadership element, developing potential. This individual is going to be very good at getting the best out of your team between the motivational leadership and their problem-solving, creative, innovative approach to work and to whatever is placed before them. They're going to bring to this a tremendous amount of creative, problem-solving, persuasive leadership in the team. So if I was to look to motivate this individual and to give you a rough synopsis, I would say you definitely want to give them an opportunity to be able to be in leadership, where they will be able to use their persuasive skills to be able to manage and to help people. The counseling aspect that they were interested is the coaching aspect. So they're going to be especially good at helping people come to decisions, to actually be able to join in with the team approach, to be able to become who it is that they were best suited to be. These are powerful strengths within this individual and things that they are generally interested in. If a person is not interested in motivational leadership or developing potential, I don't care how much you pay them, they're not going to do a good job. This individual will do a great job in that particular area. I would say that their ability to be able to lead is going to be enhanced by, again, their problem-solving giftings, but most importantly, their leadership and persuasion capabilities. And they will personally be motivated by the internal values of developing that potential, creative solutions, and also something that we didn't talk about, they like a challenge. You don't want to saddle this person with mundane problems. You want to give something that is really going to cause them to have to work and to invest themselves. This particular person would be a tremendous asset to any team, would really flourish under a strong developer, and would really benefit any organization that has challenges that they are faced with that are a little bit above and beyond the norm. That concludes our lateral analysis of this client. Please again, go to the terms.
We are in week 2 of March. We are continuing our series on living with brain injuries, because brain injuries don't mean that you're incapable of doing things. It just means things have to change. But I do need to make sure that everybody understands, look, if you break your arm, you're going to have to change things. Okay? People with brain injuries are not asking you to change your lives for them. They just need you to understand that they have a different way that they have to do things. As I've explained many times, there are hardly any lights on in my office right now. There's more light in my fish tank probably than anywhere else in this office. Now that I took that document off my other computer, right? Jen, I mean, you were sitting there looking at me at one point in time, and I was just being drowned out in light. But joining me today is somebody who, I guess the best way to put this, Jen, was you were thrown into the fire on learning about like brain injuries and brain health, and you were just kind of thrown into the fire and said, well, figure it out. And you and your mom took and struggled for the longest time, but now you're starting to, with your organization, Dignified Dementia, you guys are really starting to get not just your your own uh, uh, your own balance, but you're helping other people find their balance. I'd like you to welcome Jennifer Deserich of Dignified Dementia. How you doing, Jen?
I'm doing pretty well today. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. This is a very, very special week for me, or month for me, because of what we go through. And I know that you look on your calendar, and you've got it on your calendar on your website. You've got this month marked, and I think it's the third week in this month is actual Brain Injury Awareness Week. Right? Is the third week, I think.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. And before Jen says anything, I do want to draw attention to the QR code above her head. That QR code is how you can support Dignified Dementia through the Community Pay It Forward program. So make sure that you go and check it out, because there's a way that you can get to her website and go see everything that she's got going on, because she's got a lot of stuff on there, a lot of wonderful, wonderful things for people everywhere. Jen, why don't you go on ahead and start with just telling your story about your dad, what happened, and explain to people what I was talking about you being thrown into the deep end.
Well, it was in late 2018. Well, actually, late 2016 was when I started noticing my dad was doing some things, and things were happening to him that were not part of normal aging. He was having some hallucinations. He would fall. He would pick a subject and what it's called, the psychological term is ruminating on it, but he would get just fixated on something and he couldn't stop talking about it or trying to get his brain to figure it out. And some of that could be anxiety, some of it could be personality disorder, but I was also noticing things going on with his body, his physical. He was starting to have hand tremors and feet tremors, and I would watch him walk, and I would ask him if he had an experience where in his brain he knew where he wanted his feet to go, but if he ever had an instance where that didn't work out. He knew where he wanted them to go, but his brain made them go someplace else. And he said, "Yeah, how did you know that?" And I said, "Well, it's just something that I've noticed a little bit of." And I said, we're just going to kind of keep track of it. And you just trying your best to be honest with me when you are experiencing things that maybe you don't understand or confusing for you. And I told my immediate family, my mom, my brother, my sister-in-law, and my dad, that we needed to go see a neurologist. But it took them a while to get there. So it took almost 2 years, and my dad actually had a very public, or a breakdown in public at the movie theaters at Christmas. And my brother and my mom didn't know how to deal with it or what to do. And he really, really had a hard time, and I knew what needed to be done, but I had to let it happen because I needed the three of them to see how serious seeking help was right now. That this isn't a wait and see kind of problem. And so after that, they agreed with me, and I was able to get my dad into a neurologist. It was a referral from his primary caregiver, which is usually how it happens for people when you need to see a specialist. I have learned a lot about that process, myself as a patient and then as an advocate for my dad. But we saw this neurologist that his doctor recommended, and he was congenial. But he just had my dad walk up and down a hallway, and then he did one short little cognitive screener with him. And he said, "Well, I think it's Lewy body dementia, but you're gonna, the only way we can tell that it's for sure Lewy body is on autopsy, so we'll know when you're dead." And we weren't invited to ask questions. My dad did get out, "Well, what is Lewy body dementia?" Because none of us had ever heard of it. And at that time, it was the third leading cause of degenerative disorders of the brain, third leading cause of death for people. And now currently it's the second leading cause, right behind Alzheimer's. So it is important to know about, but we had no idea. And then my dad asked the doctor, well, how do we help other people like me?
Yeah.
And it, he was scared. I mean, anytime you hear the word dementia, um, with respect to yourself or cognitive decline, things like that, those are major events in your life. Things change after that permanently. And you have the power to deal with that change on your own terms, but it takes a lot from you, and it takes a lot from your family. And I thought his questions were great questions, but we were encouraged to make a follow-up appointment if we had any questions. And then he just the doctor shuffles us out of the room. And so we were on the way home, and I told my dad, I thought that was a really great question, Dad, asking how you can help other people like you. And I said, let's try and figure out how we help you first. And then I promise you, I will find a way to help you or other people like you, and other families like ours. And the second I got home, both me and my dad went into research mode, because knowledge is power. And he wasn't super capable with the internet, but I was. And I'm a trained, I'm a trained and educated research scientist. So we started our own journey of education on what dementia was. And we we finally, I reached out to contacts that I have at the University of Colorado Health in neurology and movement disorders. And I had a very kind soul there, who was seeing me for migraines. He offered to see my dad for a second opinion. And I said, I would love that, but he is not in network right now. I will change it at open enrollment. And he goes, Jenny, we're not worrying about that right now. Let's get your dad in here. Let's get him seen. And he actually did concur that he thought it was Lewy body as well. Um, and he did a head CT. And my dad's brain was pretty atrophied, and it was atrophied in the areas expected based on the symptoms he was having, where he was seeing and hearing things that we couldn't see or hear. And our lives changed completely after that, because at the University of Colorado Health Neuropalliative Clinic, they took my dad on as a patient, but they really took our whole family on as the patient. And we had access to social workers, chaplains, case managers, and volunteers, somebody that you could connect with, that could help you as a caregiver along the journey, while also taking care of my dad. And what they told me to do, was to develop a routine, which we thought would be very simple, because my dad was a routine guy. He liked getting up at a certain time in the morning, eating his breakfast, taking his shower, exercising, going to work. He was regimented, and it is not that easy with every person with dementia of any kind and with Lewy body. I want to make that clear, because we're learning so much about the brain and these neurodegenerative disorders, but we don't know the half of it yet. And dementia patients are, they're like snowflakes. There, if you've met one person with dementia and if you've met one person with a brain injury, you've met one person with dementia or a brain injury. So the resources I created for him, I just did it for him. I didn't have any plans to make a company out of it or anything like that. But his doctors really started appreciating what I had developed, and we were bringing these forms into his checkups, and they were really giving my dad's medical care team a snapshot of what his daily life was like, and they could use that to more efficiently care for him. And I believe, and I have done interviews with his doctor before, she believes that these resources actually helped slow his cognitive decline a little bit. They are by no means a cure, and they won't work for everyone, but there's ways to adapt them to make them work for you. But I got encouraged by his physicians, his speech therapists, his occupational therapists, his physical therapists. They said, Jen, I love these. I love what you do with these. And your dad seems to enjoy doing them. And I said, yeah, he does. We, at first, for the first 2 years, he did everything on his own by himself. But then he needed assistance as his disease progressed and his symptoms got worse. But as a research scientist, I looked at several of the evidence-based practices on what people do to help engage a person in cognitive decline and what skills they need to work on, using fine motor skills, things like seeing a color and being able to connect it to a word. All of those things happen in your brain, and they happen the way they're supposed to happen in a healthy brain. But when the brain is not healthy, it needs some work. And my dad, actually, he is the true creator, because I mean, I created these things, but he worked with me and he told me, I don't like this. This is dumb, or this is not fun. Or I don't see why this matters. And together we really perfected something. And as he was declining, it was September of 2022, I finally realized that we had a way. We had a way to help other people like him and other families like ours. We just needed to get it a little more organized and get it out there. And so that's what inspired me to create Dignified Dementia. And we were, like you said, just we were thrown into the deep end. And luckily, we had a clue, a small clue, but a clue of how to swim, and were able to get to the surface. And then I did a lot of investigating. I also did a lot of support work on myself. While my family was trying to come to terms with the idea that we needed to see a neurologist, I knew something was happening that we were going to have to deal with. And so I was working on myself individually in therapy. And it really helped us. And um, with the resources, we ended up creating the website, and then we have additional resources and everything on our website. Fortunately, now that we have some regular donors and some help, is free of charge. No one pays to be a part of a program to get the resources or access them only at a certain level. And we are building that up weekly. And then we also have a support group, and we have had some very exciting opportunities come about that I can talk about later. But that is sort of the long-winded answer of how we got
That,
into the deep end.
it is weird that I look, when I was showing the toolkit that you have, and it is the simplicity of what you've got there. And I'm not talking you didn't work hard on it.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
just saying the simplicity of it. Some people are going to look at it and they're going to say, how did this help? They don't understand how much that helps you as a caregiver.
Yes.
Remember what the doctor said. Remember what your loved one said. Remember what you said. And you know, you can look back and, okay, well, we had this for dinner and there was a bad reaction. He had a terrible night, a terrible night sleeping, or he had other problems
Nightmares.
here. So we
Yeah.
want to go and make sure that we look into maybe staying away from this stuff
Mhm.
or investigate what's going on there. I mean, the simplicity of it is just amazing, but the results are fantastic because um, we work with Jeff down in Colorado Springs, and Jeff with Hydro for Hope, or with Hope, and he's got the journaling that is the medical journaling is so amazing because you don't always have the same doctors. You don't always get the same doctors. And then, having to go in and remember all the medications that you have to take and remembering what this doctor said and what that doctor said. As a guy who doesn't have dementia, but who does have a brain injury, that gets frustrating because I can't remember which doctor said what. I can't remember what they wanted me to try. I can't remember, any of this stuff. And it's like, well, have you tried this or have you seen this doctor? And it's like, I've been doing this for 11 years. I don't know who I've seen. I'm not even
Right.
sure who you are, at times. And,
That's how it feels very
yeah,
much.
and it's not just the patient or the loved one that's going through that. It's also the caregiver. The caregiver's sitting there and they're beating their heads over trying to live a life of their own while maintaining your life along with it, your loved one's life along with it. And it's not an easy thing. And your program is built on the love for not just the person with the issue, but also the caregiver, because if they're not working together, it's not going to work.
Right.
And if a caregiver gives up all of their power, they're doomed to fail.
Yeah.
So when what is in you've got the calendar, you've got the eating guide, you've got the wellness journal sheet, you've got the health information tracking sheet, and the medicine administration tracking sheet. Jen, if I just wanted to get started on one thing, which one would you tell me to do first?
Um, it would depend on the information that you gave me, and sort of if you came to me and told me your story and what you I would be more specific based on what goals you might have and what issues you're having the most struggle with at the moment. But um, I would say for for most people, because what you described is very accurate. You know, you go see this doctor and that doctor, and you have to fill new patient paperwork out, and this medicine, and when we took that one, it did not work. Here's why. Here's when we stopped it. And I wanted to try and make his doctor's appointments as much about him as possible, what he was feeling and thinking and experiencing. And, you know, if we were answering all the new patient paperwork questions and everything like that, that eats into your time. And as we all know, you don't get an unlimited amount of time to tell your doctor what's going on. And so I would say if you have the cognitive capacity yourself, I would do the health information tracking form first, because it's pretty well, it's very involved, but it's that way for a purpose. I collected information that different doctors had asked from us for over the years, and I compiled it all into this form. And if you fill it out, and your providers are open to it, they can just scan it. We didn't have to fill out new patient paperwork ever again. And then I would, if you have a caregiver, or some, you know, a loved one who is with you, I would recommend they go through that with you and help you do it. But a very, very close second would be that the wellness journal sheet. It it's really important to know what it is you're doing each day, and if your brain injury is affecting your memory or your mood, or interrupting your daily habits. These tracking these things can be a really good thing, because it helps you see what you need to ask about. And for my dad, what he used to say, he labeled himself as crazy. He felt crazy, and that's how he described himself. And he said that the forms helped him keep the crazy out. And we had a certain designated place in the house where we would do them, a certain time that we would do them. And if he wanted to know something about what he did the day before, or what he even did that morning, he knew where he could go to look at it in his own handwriting, instead of asking my mom or his caregiver, or me, the same question over and over again. Because one of the cruel things that happened to him was he had an acute awareness of what was happening at times. There were times he didn't, but there were times where he knew he was asking the same question 27 times in, 12 minutes. But he couldn't hold on to the information. And he watched what that did to me or my mom or the caregiver, and he didn't want that. And so that's another advantage of those forms. And there are terrific apps out there, but these are handwritten. The wellness journal sheets are handwritten for a reason, because handwriting is a fine motor skill, and it can tell you a lot, or tell your doctor a lot, if you track it over time about what's going on in your brain.
You
And
know, I would almost like to add to that. We were talking about what we didn't want to talk about earlier, but I will bring up the fact that the older generation that we're dealing with right now, they're they're not into the computer apps and stuff like that, and all that. They don't trust it. They don't think that they've always written things down, and this is also just a way that you can make them feel like they're still involved in their own care. And
exactly.
they can see with their own handwriting, I'm still here.
Yes.
I'm still involved in this. I'm still part of my own healing.
Yes. And we invoked medical power of attorney um, about 3 years into his diagnosis. But he was, until he went nonverbal and lost consciousness close to the time he died, we always did everything we could to involve him in his own care. Um, Even if sometimes he didn't understand it, I would slow it down, explain it, and then we would write it down. And, um, we wouldn't just hand him a pill and say, take this. We would tell him what it was, what it did, even if we told him over and over again. Um, we we involved him in his life, and it's such a key piece to good health outcomes for people with neurodegenerative disorders, for them to be as involved as they can, because it's the losing that control, and having so much of your freedom just being pulled out from under you. Um, that's what dehumanizes you and takes your dignity away. And I insisted that everyone treat my dad with dignity and respect, that they didn't talk about him like he wasn't there. Um, and if they couldn't follow that program with me, then we didn't see them anymore, because it's so much easier to do things with people than for them.
Let's be honest, there's also a respect factor there.
Yes.
There's still it, I don't even after they pass on, they're still part of your life. There's no such thing as somebody who is no longer with us.
Hmm.
Okay? Because they're always going to be with us. Always, for the rest of my life, I'm going to have people who are not on walking on this plane with me every day, but they're still with me every day. I
Yes.
don't ever talk about anybody in the past tense, because they're not past tense. I think about them every day of my life. And if you really got to have, you really got to be careful that you're not talking about somebody else, in that way, because that's an easy way to lose respect of other people,
Yeah.
and really lose respect of the ones who are busting their butt every day trying to take care of these individuals who are there, who are still there.
Yeah.
And once again, you as a caregiver are giving up your life to not just try to live your own life, but also their lives with them, not for them, but with them, trying to help them. So um, I know that we've ran a little bit long, but I do have one more question. When we talked a couple weeks ago, you had made mention that your mom took this a little bit different, the caregiving a little bit different than you did. Okay, you guys kind of saw things in two different ways. These tools that you have, is there a little bit of both ways in these tools? Is there a little bit of ways that there was a compromise that was kind of put in there to where no matter which way you were looking, you could use them and make things easier that way?
Honestly, um, the short answer is no, not really. Um, it it required her buy-in, because sometimes when she would assist him when he needed assistance, um, the way she communicated or her nonverbal communication, um, all of that, he would pick up on. And if she got frustrated, he would get frustrated. But
Mm,
she didn't realize that she set the tone. She thought her frustration was her frustration, and if he got frustrated, that's on him. And so it this this program, these forms, they take buy-in from the patient and the caregivers, whether it's a loved one or someone else, because my dad's respite care workers did these with him as well. Um, and you have to be patient. And she came around, but um, I would I would say that if you're a caregiver that is really, really struggling to just get through a day, um, that the health information tracking sheet and possibly the medicine administration tracking sheet would be the easiest parts for you. Um, they would help you communicate efficiently with the doctor, and um, also help you track the medication that you give your loved one, or whomever you're caring for, um, and maybe try to ease more into it. Or if you have a person who is at the beginning of their diagnosis, their decline hasn't been completely rapid, um, and they can do it on their own, so that the caregiver could see the benefit. Because my mom eventually, as she started to work on herself and she saw the benefit of what these forms did over time for my dad, it helped her attitude around them and taking the time to help him with them change a little bit, improve a little bit. And so I liked to do it with him any day that I could. I valued that time, but sometimes I couldn't be there.
yeah.
And um, I would always ask, "Are you okay to do this with dad? Do you need to skip a day? Do you know?" Um, but I tried to be mindful of where she was, but also where my dad was. Um,
Yeah. And I think I think this is a really great place to just remind people that, look, this is never a one person problem. Okay, caregivers, you know, uh, and in which, you're looking at your mom and you're not understanding exactly what your mom was going through as well, or the way that she was responding to things. But you got to remember, she was losing somebody who she's loved for a long, long time, and she's seeing this whole new person appear in a body that of a man that she's been with forever. And that's really something that we've got to make sure that we, as outsiders of a situation, need to understand too, is that, you've got to let people live and love the experience that they're in, love it enough to where they can feel comfortable getting back into that experience, because this is brand new for them as well.
yeah,
So, and what I would actually like to say, and I love the way that you went around and talked about the forms. But folks, one of the things that we've been talking about for weeks now is time. Okay, time. as a as a subject, time as an excuse, time as all this. This is one of those situations where they've got 5 forms here. They're going to take a little bit of time, but this is time that you need to, like Jen just said, this is a time when you can sit with your loved one. And yeah, this isn't the funnest thing in the world to do, but you're still able to do something with them. This is still a memory that you're going to be able to, hey, I didn't particularly, this wasn't like going to Disneyland, but damn it, I was there when they needed it.
Yep.
And we were doing something together.
Yes.
You've got to find the time to do things like this to help yourself out. And more importantly, help someone else out. Time cannot be an excuse anymore. Everybody's life is fast. Look, if we could find that extra 30 minutes in a day, that would be awesome. That 30 minutes isn't coming anytime soon, so we need to regulate our time. We need to make sure that we're able to put that time where it needs to be. So, 30 minutes less of TV, 30 minutes less of a nap. If that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. But you've got to remember what's important, and you've got to remember that, loving someone else for 30 minutes is a hell of a lot better than any TV show you can watch.
Well said. Yeah.
So, Jen, I want to thank you so very much. Once again, I do want to remind everybody this QR code right above here will take you to Jen's form. And what you do is you simply shop with any of our giving partners. Okay. Any of our giving partners, just shop with them. If you cannot find a giving partner that satisfies your needs, reach out to us and say, hey, do you have anybody who can help me in this situation? We've got people who we work with that we can take and send to you, or send them to you, or you to them, and they can help you. A portion of what you pay them goes back to organizations like Dignified Dementia so they can continue to offer this program for free to families who need it. This is so important to do. You have to make sure they can afford to give away stuff for free, because, Jen, giving away stuff for free is amazingly expensive.
Indeed, it is. But
So,
I would like to say thank you to everyone who has donated and who is considering supporting us, because we've been able in 2026 to do some pretty amazing things. We've partnered with the seniors clinic at the University of Colorado Health to provide our resources for their patients for free. We've also partnered with the Neurology and Neuropalliative Care Fund at UC Health to bring in internationally known speakers to talk about dementia, promote the awareness, be an advocate. And all of these talks will be free to the public. Anyone can come to them because we've partnered with these organizations and made that possible. Because getting the awareness out there, reducing this stigma, is going to help with long-term quality of life satisfaction and positive healthcare outcomes.
look, if you are seeing signs of even small signs of delay, you really need to start paying attention to that, because unfortunately, um another thing that we say all the time, look, you break an arm, they're going to put your arm in a cast, eventually your arm's going to heal. They can't do that for a brain. They don't have any way to heal brains right now. They do what they want to do. For such a wonderful, smart machine, it's a pain in the ass to try to heal, because they don't have a playbook on it. So, Jen, before you go, can you please explain this beautiful, beautiful thing that you've sent us to give away?
Well, we are very, very inspired by your mission at Community Pay It Forward and the Compass. And you've done so much to promote us and help us. We wanted to donate that very nice cable knit, fleece lined blanket. It does have our old Dignified Dementia logo on it, but it's really just comfy blanket, and it for for my dad, I watched how important it became for him to not only have something to keep him warm, um, but something that felt differently. He could touch it and then connect with the sensory experience. So it's really nice that one side is knit and one side is fleece. And we wanted to donate that to you all so that you could um, auction it off. And
Yeah, and what we're going to do, folks, is all we ask you to do is take and donate to the Come Together Compass. Help us get the compass built. You will be seeing Dignified Dementia in the compass because of what they do. They are offering stuff for free to people everywhere in this crazy world that need help with dementia. Okay, this is free. These are the groups of people that we want to make sure that you understand they're out there, because there's nothing worse in this world to hear about. God, I wish I would have known about you before dot dot dot. Jennifer's out here. Dignified Dementia is out here. They're ready to help. We want to make sure people know that they're here to help. So if you donate to the Come Together Compass, help us get the compass built. Every dollar gets you a space on the wheel of giving. And on April 1st, we're going to be giving away that blanket. And I will tell you this: I snuck my hands inside there and felt inside, and it is soft. It is so soft. So I like soft things, but
yes,
you know, you can get a hold of Jen at info@dignifieddementia.org. That's info@dignifieddementia.org, or call her at 720-663-7635, 720-663-7635. And the one of the other ways that you can get a hold of her is just go to the website, which is dignifieddementia.org. And if you go down into the corner, it's a little button. It says contact us. Okay. I will almost guarantee you, I shouldn't speak for you probably, but that probably goes to your cell phone, doesn't it?
it sure does. Yes.
There you go. So you know who you're talking to. It goes straight to her. If you need to talk to her, you've got her right there. Also, just make sure that every time you shop with someone, folks, you make it count. Use this QR code. Support this wonderful lady. Support this family. They're doing great things, wonderful things, helping anybody who needs their help. So, Jen, I want to thank you so very much. Um, Look, I want to say from the bottom of my heart, I love you. I love your struggle. I love what you went through. And I love your strength and able to come back and do what you're doing. Because if you didn't have that strength, other people wouldn't have your experiences to go off of. And you finding that strength and going through that pain have made it to where others can understand what they need to go through a little bit more. And
Yeah.
you can help people realize none of us are alone, and none of us need to go at it alone when we all come together. That's it's our motto. That's what we love to say. So I want to thank you so much for what you've done, what you're doing, and what you're going to do.
Thank you. And thank you for having me today. It's really nice to talk to you. Always a pleasure.
It is. It's great. We need to do it more often. So, anyway, I want to thank everybody for joining us for Community Impact, for Les Simpson, for Jennifer Deserich. My name is Zach Clayton with Community Pay It Forward, the Come Together Compass, and Pact Podcasting Networks. I want to thank you so very much, and join us on Monday as we continue to relive the mission for Healthy Heroes. So thank you very much. Jen, again, thank you so much.
Happy to do it.
Say, bring me home, out alone, you show me the way. You wanna hold the heart of Sunset Boulevard. Bring me here, 'cause it's not quite clear to be a part of Sunset Boulevard.